Welcome back to Beauty Marks Podcast, a space where we embrace marks acquired through our journey. My name is Lula Savion, and thank you for joining me on this week's episode. I am finally back after 2 months. If you are a new listener, thank you for joining me. If you've been in the family for a long time, for over a year, thank you for joining me and wanting to listen to this episode. This is kicking off year 2 of the podcast. I took off 2 months, which was very needed. And a lot of you guys actually caught up with the episodes, which was great. Weekly, I had new people listening. And so I hope you're up to date with all the podcast episodes. If not, you can always go back and start from the beginning. And I just honestly am really excited to be back. It's been too long since sitting, to record and everything like that. So thank you guys for being here wherever you're at. A few updates. I wanted to do a few things differently in this second year coming in. And so every episode when I start, I would love to update you guys on what's going on in my life, to talk a little bit beforehand, do weekly highs and lows, because we really want to be transparent on this podcast and show you behind the feed what's going on. I feel like that's the best way that I can connect with you guys and that we can really have deeper conversations. Because last year, I feel that it was sometimes hard for me to express some things because I was currently going through them. And so I'm going to try to do a better job in this next year to be more on time with what's really going on in that week. And, it can be from little things, from little lows or little highs. And just so that we can all see that we are all human and that things don't always look so pretty, in real life, and that's life. But there's also things that we can celebrate too. And always leaving you guys at the end with either a quote or a verse or something that I've been really thinking about before we leave the episode. So we'll start off with the update of my life, what's been going on these past 2 months. So I would say the biggest news is that my sister and June are having a baby. They're having a baby girl, and I'm so, so, so excited. Honestly, if you haven't checked it out, their gender reveal, she told us on her birthday, and it was just beautiful. So I'm having a niece, and I'm so excited. It's just like a whole nother season, like just seeing your brothers or sisters, them having a baby. It's just you really feel like a full adult, because you're like, wow, we're all growing up. And I know that they're going to be amazing parents. So I'm really excited to be the favorite aunt. And aside from that, and just enjoying this new time with the whole pregnancy, I'm also helping plan my parents' vow renewal. They're turning 30 years. And so I've really been doing a lot on the back end for that. And that's been exciting. A lot of changes. Now it is closer than before. And so there's been date changes, venue changes. So I'm really looking forward to it. And another thing is that I've been working on my business. If you didn't know, I do small business, social media marketing. I've been doing it since 2-3 years ago, but I have a hard time promoting myself, myself. And that's something we'll talk about more in this episode. But I am working on that, and I've been doing it low key. I've had clients, I have clients that pay me monthly that I do their social media, and I just never put myself out there. So this is the month we're going to do it. So if you have a small business, or if you know somebody that has a small business, it's my own plug for myself, that you need social media marketing management, you want to focus on other stuff of your business, or you just don't even know how to post, use hashtags, make reels, all of that, hit me up. Well, we can talk about it. And so that's really what I have been working on. And wait, a big deal is also that I got a personal trainer. So this is my 3rd week in personal training, and it has kicked my butt, but it's really been challenging me to learn more about weightlifting and just, I want to tone and just, become stronger. And so and just be healthy overall. That's always been my big goal. There's been in a previous episode, I shared that I have had some hormone changes and that have affected my body. And it's just kind of been, it was discouraging for some time. And especially over the past 2 months, I did feel very insecure and just very like, just not okay. If I'm being completely real. And I have been literally getting my blood, like I've been doing different tests to figure out what's going on. And then I had to change my certain things that I was eating. And then the whole personal trainer is just for me to have a healthy lifestyle and to be active. So what is in my control, I will take charge, but other things I know that are not in my control and I have to learn to accept it. And so I'm still trying to figure out what is going on. But for now, I am enjoying like going to the gym. Literally, I'm sore almost every day, but it's because every day or at least 3 times a week that I'm going directly with my trainer, we're focusing on different muscle groups. So long story short, I'm enjoying that, but it's definitely been an adjustment. The break was definitely something that I did need. I feel like, and this is something that I commit myself to, and I want to make sure that when I show up on this podcast, I am not, it's not that I have to be perfect or that, because life still happens, and I want to be honest, but I definitely want to not pour from an empty cup. Like I want to make sure that I'm okay. I'm really big on mental health. I'm big on just, taking care of yourself and like, your spiritual walk and like making sure that you and God, all those things that are very important to me. And so I want to always be real with that with you guys. And so I definitely needed some time. I definitely felt like I was starting to give from an empty place because I just really have not been feeling myself since probably May, I would say. Just a lot of things, like it's just a lot of different changes, which I will be talking about today. But you know, so because of that, I feel like I want to commit myself to showing up, authentically and like giving from a place that I'm okay. So the breaks are needed, same with you. If you're feeling overwhelmed, maybe it's time to take a break of something that you're doing. And so now I kind of feel like I'm slowly but surely getting a flow again. Um, and I also have to like realize that like that's just kind of part of the wave. Like like I feel like this year was a lot of self-awareness that I became more aware of things that I do struggle with and knowing like your highs and lows and knowing what triggers you and knowing what kind of like doesn't help to make you feel better, things that kind of bring you in a toxic spiral in your thoughts. So, yeah. But I am back and I am here, and actually this weekend was my birthday. We had a great time and I really, really enjoyed it. I got to spend a lot of quality time with my family and friends and got to try a few new good places, got to like fine dine, and I literally got a facial, a massage, got my hair done, got my nails done. It was a full pampered week. And I'm actually doing a staycation this week with one of my friends too. And I'm really, really excited about that. So honestly, cannot ask for a better time. I was listening to the last year's episode a few weeks ago, and I was like, in the episode, I was saying that it was raining and we were like in, the pandemic, and I wanted to go on a trip 2021, which I couldn't go this year on my birthday, but I am planning some trips soon. And I did get to go on some trips earlier this year. So, maybe next year. I told everybody, I'm like, all right, we're going to make sure that next year, please, next year, like that's all I want is just a trip to go somewhere. But honestly, I am so grateful to see another year, and I did turn 26. So time flies, and I feel like I don't feel 26, but it's still something that's like unbelievable because I'm like, can I just stay at 25? So, in this episode, I really just wanted to talk about things that I've learned this past year or really started implementing more of, and just kind of breaking that down. Last year, I did, if you didn't check out that episode, I did things that I advised to my younger self, and I literally went through a list of that. And this year, I really just want to talk about just lessons and things that I really started more becoming more aware of or implementing. And this year, I can officially say it has been a full year of deep counseling, and it has been rough. It has I've I think the more you become self-aware, the more it's just so many things. There's this quote that I saw the other day that just explained what I honestly genuinely feel. It says, when we start to get better, we often get sad because we start to realize how much we've missed out on, how badly certain people failed us, what the younger version of us actually deserved. And healing involves healthy grieving. There's no way around it. And I feel like this year was honestly a year of grief, like in so many areas, like grief of just realizing things, like realizing patterns in myself. Um, when I kind of felt like I was getting better and then I would do the same behaviors over. So then I felt like I failed myself. I felt like I was grieving certain friendships, certain dynamics, certain just like habits that I had, um, certain relationships. Just, I feel like this year was a lot of grief. Like, if that's like personally for me, that's how it's been. It's just been a lot of, um, because it's like taking out the layers. Like, I made a lot of episodes this year on that about like growing pains therapy, like because I honestly feel since I started going into like trauma therapy, it was just mind blowing. And I feel like it's like it like messed me up, but in a good way. It's like stuff that I hadn't like dealt with for years. And so I feel like it just felt overwhelming of emotions. And I felt like I was I would just wanted to feel like I was feeling so many emotions consistently that I just wanted to stop feeling things. So like I became numb and in a non-healthy way, because I just was like, I just don't like being this aware. Like I rather not. Like let me go back to me being not aware and not having to deal with this. And so I was trying to cope in other ways, unhealthy ways. And it's just been a challenge, in that area. Like I feel like I really learned this year to deal with my trauma and the actual like pain that it comes with dealing with your trauma. I kind of understand why people don't do it, because it's hard. Like it's hard work. Like it takes work to deal with your stuff, to look back on situations and be like and dissect things and situations that have happened. It's a lot of work. So that is something that I really started implementing more this year, but it was painful. And I'm still in my journey. That's all I have to say. The second thing is that I really realized that growth requires healthy grieving. And that's what I was talking about a little bit before. With honestly, what's really helped me through this past year was really like my family and like close friends. Those are the people that it was hard, like even to let them in, it was difficult for me this past year, which, I talk about community and the importance of it and having people around you, but it just, it's just a lot, like dealing with some, like, your issues that this past year, like, I know that like I had my family and friends like encourage me a lot, and I needed that a lot. Like I needed a lot of affirmation and encouragement and just support this past year. Like if I think about like from 25 to 26, because I had like ups and downs, and they really supported me throughout this time. So like valuing, and I really think it's as you get older, you value more like your family and like your quality friends. Like you really value that more because you see the difference that it makes when like I can't imagine not having that. You know, it's really about quality over quantity. And those people that you can just be 1,000% yourself, like they see you at your worst, but they still love you. Um, and you know, aside from Jesus that sees us that way and loves us, even though we make mistakes, like having people that see you with like eyes of love and compassion and forgiveness towards you means a lot. So you know who you are. And the next thing is the power of helping others and thinking outside of yourself. I feel like this past year, you know, even though I have been going through my own issues, I feel like I've realized when I have been doing the podcast and helping others, having discussions, um, you know, doing interviews with different people, and then I have people respond and say, "Hey, that really helped me out," or "Hey, I'm going through this." Like, there's just something so powerful in that. Like, when you do stuff that's not just for you know, because I know when I have gotten in my darkest, most isolated times, I was just thinking about myself. Like I just felt so overwhelmed with my problems that I didn't even have time to think about anybody else. But I feel like this past year, despite what I have personally experienced, what has helped me continue is knowing that I'm helping others aside from myself, and that through me showing up and being there and helping other people and being interested in other people's issues and just caring and um you know, encouraging or just asking, and through that I feel like like it's helped me too, you know. So if the best way sometimes to get out of a rut or to um you know, to get out of that cycle of your own problems, it's by honestly sometimes helping other people, and you know, like through that, like serving other people, helping. And so I really feel like that, like, you know, like that's like thanking you guys for, you know, every message that just reminds me that it's like it's so much more than myself, you know. And so um yeah, that has been really really helpful. The other thing is about rest and how taking your rest days and knowing to say no, setting boundaries is continuously so important. I talk about that so much on this podcast, but that's one of the things that I have really implemented this past year, and that helps me also to focus on my mental health. This year has been a mental health year for sure, but I really started more into implementing those things. And if you haven't done a mental health check, you know, and you always feel like you're like on the go, or you always feel like you're like just overwhelmed, like maybe that has to do with some boundaries that you have to place, or maybe there's some issues that you're avoiding. Um, and you're just trying to like distract yourself with something else. So maybe digging deeper in that is going to help you feel better, because sometimes like we can do things to numb ourselves, but numbing is not going to make the problem go away. It's just going to prolong the time for you to deal with it. So it's like it's still waiting for you, the problem is still waiting for you down the hall. You know, it's just you're just prolonging it. Another thing is probably one of the biggest things recently that has been getting to me is not having it all together, and the power of asking for help. You know, this year, like what I was saying earlier, like I really dealt with some trauma with counseling, with, you know, just really reaching out and asking for help and setting boundaries and all of that, which has helped me. But I feel like realizing that it's okay to not have everything figured out, because really none of us have it figured out as much as we think we do. Like there's still something, I was talking to a friend about this, that sometimes like you're like, okay, I have, you know, financial freedom, but then my family's broken, or my relationship is broken, or I don't have health. Like if you have one thing, like it doesn't always mean that other things in your life are well. Like, you know, it's like always there's always something. Like there's always something that you can look at that's not perfect or that's not great. Um, and so, the realization that life isn't always perfect, and, you know, you have to choose your focus and your perspective, because sometimes if you don't, like, you'll always feel like everything's falling apart when that's not the case. It's just that one thing or those two things. um so it's like focusing on the things that you do have, like I'm super grateful for my support system and for my family. That is the one thing that still stands very strong in my life. And our relationships, like I feel like I can truly, like, talk with them, be transparent, be myself. And I know that a lot of people don't have that, so I am so grateful for that. In other areas though, like my romantic relationships, non-existent. In figuring out my career, that's sometimes a mess. In my health right now, I feel like, aside from, like, I'm still trying to figure out what's going on with that. So it's like I'm like, okay, I have one thing, like, for sure, that's good, you know and that's not that I'm complaining. I know that for some of you guys listening, you guys can relate, that sometimes it's just like, man, like, if this one thing, like, so, I recently have a lot, I have, because I can feel overwhelmed, or like, with this year, a lot of the unknowns, which I have shared with you guys, that, I've gotten way better than I was before in the last year. But this year has definitely, it just has been interesting. It's like nothing has gone how I thought it was going to go this year again. Like 2020 was like that, and then 2021 feels like that. So I'm just really having to, like, rely fully on God. And I'm like, God, you know what you're doing. You know what you're doing. And it's so hard for me. Like, it's super hard for me. I mean, I already have, like, my own trust issues, and I know that that also makes me doubt even God, because it's like I look at trust like humans, and that's not how it works in the kingdom. Like, that's not, like, God knows us. So I'm preaching to my own self. Um, and recently, I think what really got me, at least this summer, was that I started romanticizing the past a lot. Like, I started being like, well, you see, when I was 23 or 22, I was already moved out. I was making this much money. I was working in this job. Like, I had this, I had that. Like, I was traveling like so many times a year. So, and I started, like, romanticizing that time. And I was like, man, and I was like this weight, and I was this skinny, and, like, look, I was like living it up. Like, and then now I don't feel that way. Like, I feel like I was going backwards. Like, that's like thoughts in my head. Like, I'm just scripting out what thoughts in my head sound like. And I feel like I was doing that, and I caught myself that I was doing that. I'm like, oh my God, like, I keep looking back. Like, I keep looking back, like, instead of, like, right now, because I feel like the past was so much better than my current situation. And I think, like, I caught myself, and I'm like, wait, like, stop, pause. Like, was it really that good? Like, when you look back, like, was it really that good? And then I started, like, breaking it down, and I'm like, okay, no, like, that wasn't good. I was in a toxic work environment. Like, I was barely sleeping. I was barely eating because I had no time to eat, or I was working a ridiculously amount of time, and it wasn't taking care of myself in the proper way. I was like breaking it down into different things, and I'm like, Liz, no, that's not true. Like, that wasn't great. That wasn't all great. Like, what you have right now, like, it's like a foundation, for other things. And, like, that you can take, like, the good times and, like, okay, look at the memories and be like, okay, that was great. That was good. I enjoyed that. But also be realistic what was also happening. And then look at your life now and be like, wow, but I have some things that I have now that are amazing, that I used to pray about, that I always wanted, you know? And I've had to check my own self in those things because I tend to do that, And so, yeah. So that's been my journey over this past summer. And just looking back at this year, I know for me, it usually takes, like, I like to do this, like on my birthday, I like to look back, like what I've done, what has changed, what is still the same, what are things that I want to improve or just work on, get better, be more intentional about. And so I know I'm going to be doing that more like this, I'm going to say this month, and just kind of plan out better because that's just the way it works for me. And I encourage you to do that the same because every year you should see some growth in certain areas. I believe that we're always learning, we're always growing. And if you're still the same person than you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, like you need to do some self-reflection because we all change, we all evolve. And yeah. So this year, when I look back, despite some challenges that I did have, like with especially my mental health, I feel like my mental health, I felt a little unstable, but I know it's because I started digging deeper and taking off like layers, of my life. And there was a lot of grief throughout that, um, cutting certain relationships changing too. Something that I'm currently going through is that I don't have like single friends. Like most of my friends are all either in relationships in or married or, something like that. And so I feel like I didn't realize that that was affecting me, but it really has affected me because I feel like I am already doing, like, I feel like I consider myself a very independent person. Like, I can go out to dinner by myself, movies, like, I can do stuff by myself. But I felt like when I needed certain things, like, I have to understand that other people have other things going on, that are responsibilities and all of that. And so I feel like the gym, especially, has been a place that I'm trying to like dive in more. And then in my passion projects, like this podcast, my business. Um, and I know that the other aspect of that is also having single friends, like people that are in the same kind of season of my life, like me, or even that they're my age and they're in entrepreneurship or they're in certain fields. And so I feel like I definitely need to be more intentional with that because for me, I feel like I at first it wasn't affecting me and then it started affecting me and then I started like really pity parting myself. And I'm like, no, like, wait, let's go back. Let's go back to what we've talked about. Like, I don't believe that a partner is what's going to fulfill my life. Like, that's not it. Like, it's within myself. And like, there's so many more things to my life that are, that are happening, things that I'm focusing on, projects that I'm working on. Like, my success is not off that. So, I feel like that's an area that this year I'm definitely going to be more intentional about and just traveling, living in the moment, just not like living fearless. That's really what I want this year to be more of. It's like taking risk, like doing things imperfectly and not waiting just for the right moment, like just doing things and taking a chance at things. And, if it's trips and if it's community and more projects, just doing all that right now. Cause I know I have this moment to be able to do all those things. Like there's goals that, of course, that I want, like, to like buy my own house and, so I'm working on that right now while living at home and also, traveling while I can and working on my business and also doing the podcast. Like I know I have a lot of benefits right now and where I'm at as an individual. So yeah. So that's like a little look into what's happening with me. But in your life, like whatever that looks like, just know that every year that goes by, you can look at the highs and the lows and know that, you're not alone in this. Like everybody, even in whatever season someone else is in, like they all have their struggles or challenges. So we are actually more similar than we think with others. So on the same line of what I said about taking risk, I want to challenge you guys this week to start something or do something or get something going that you've always wanted to do. So I posted this on my Instagram this week. It said, your first workout will be bad. Your first podcast will be bad. Your first speech will be bad. Your first video will be bad. Your first anything will be bad. But you can't make your 100th without making your first. So put your ego aside and start. So whatever that looks like for you this week, I just want to challenge you guys to start, do. It's not going to be perfect and it never will be. So just launch, go, and you'll figure it out along the way. That's how it works. When I started this podcast, I always think back, I'm like, it has been completely like, if I would have planned out everything perfectly, I would have never started it. But I started it scared and super terrified. And so I want to take that same energy into other projects that I have. And so, yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning into this week's episode. Welcome back. And I will be posting every Monday, and then I'll be posting some stuff during the week. And so I have some exciting stuff coming up. And just don't forget to leave a review, share with a friend, share it on Instagram, let people know you heard the episode, that we're back. And thank you again for just your support, just tuning in and just hanging out. And I always want you to know that you're not alone, that things that you might be going through might seem hard, but this will pass. Whatever is going on will pass. So, you can always reach out to me. You can always hit me up in the DMs to talk or chat or your thoughts on this episode and the new breakdown too. So as always, don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys in next week's episode. Have a great week.